And the other nurse in front of me looked at me and she said, I don't know if you're the type of person that prays, but if you are, I suggest you pray right now. Hey friends, what's up? It is Courtney. Today I just wanted to film a little story time, I guess, about my labor and delivery. You can tell by the title of this video that I ended up having a C-section under general anesthesia. So I kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit. I know that's not the most common birth type. And I don't know, I got a couple of requests to talk about my labor and delivery. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I don't know, recently I guess I've just been thinking more about my labor and delivery and how it's kind of like affected me. At first, you know, you just have this new baby and you're trying to navigate that and you don't think too much about like the process of how they came into the world. But now that things are calming down a little bit, I don't know, I've been thinking about it more. And I'm not gonna say traumatic because it seems like overkill. I know there are so many more people that have had way worse births than I've had. And overall, I was very blessed and lucky of how my labor and delivery went. I just wanted to talk about it, kind of like therapy, you know. Just I haven't really like gone into depth talking with anybody about my labor and delivery and how it went and how I feel about it and like how it's affected me. So that's what this video is. Starting off, I went to my OBGYN. I was 37 weeks and 6 days along. So towards the end, I believe just the last month, you have weekly appointments. So I was going in for my weekly appointment, and thankfully my husband Austin was actually able to attend this doctor's appointment with me. So we went to the doctor. I had gestational hypertension. I had been diagnosed with that, which basically just means high blood pressure brought on by pregnancy that can't be explained by another diagnosis such as preeclampsia. So I had been tested for preeclampsia because hypertension is a symptom of that. I had been tested for it a couple of times and it had come back negative. So I did not present with preeclampsia, just gestational hypertension. So I went to this doctor's appointment. We were kind of monitoring it, and I had blood pressure of 165/110, which is pretty high. And also I had an ultrasound this appointment because all along my son, he's so cute. My son was measuring big the whole time. So we were kind of just monitoring his size. So I had an ultrasound also this visit, at which they found out that my amniotic fluid levels were pretty low just because he was taking up so much space in my belly. So he was projected at that time to be 9 pounds 10 ounces, and this is at 37 weeks and 6 days along. Pretty big boy. So all along we were kind of keeping an eye on his size, trying to debate whether or not it was going to be an attempted vaginal delivery or just planned C-section. So at this appointment specifically, after I got that blood pressure reading super high, my doctor basically said, we're going to induce you, your blood pressure is too high, there's not much amniotic fluid, so you're going to be induced. I'm going to give you the option. Do you want to try to have it vaginally? Have it. Your child. Do you want to try to deliver vaginally, or would you rather just opt for a C-section? And she, you know, she lays out the risks and the benefits, and all I had really heard was how difficult the recovery from a C-section is. So that's not something I really wanted to do if I could try and deliver vaginally. So I told her that was my plan. Austin and I talked about it, and she said okay, and she had us drive straight from her office to the hospital to be induced. Mind you, okay, I went to this doctor's appointment straight from work. It was like a Wednesday. Yeah, this was a Wednesday. So I did have my bags packed at home just because, you know, it was getting towards the end, but didn't have my bags with me. Me and Austin were both still in our work clothes. We have 2 dogs, so we didn't have anyone set up to watch the dogs. So all in all, it was kind of like not the most planned situation, which, I mean, I would say most births aren't like, you don't know what day it's gonna happen, but you know, at 37 weeks, 6 days, we thought we still had a little bit more time. Anyway, that is what kick-started my induction. So I'm not gonna really go into a lot of details of how my induction went. It was pretty uneventful. It lasted a while, so I'll kind of just like skip ahead a little bit. If you guys want to hear more about like the step-by-step of how I got into active labor, I can do another video about that, but I'm gonna just fast forward a little bit. So I started on the medication to induce my labor at 6 p.m. on Wednesday. Fast forward to 3 a.m. on Friday. My water finally broke, and at that point, I was feeling a lot. Up to this point, I had been given, I forget what it's called. It's an IV medication. It kind of just makes you feel a little bit loopy. I had been given a few rounds of that. I'm not sure what it's called, just to help with the pain. But other than that, I hadn't had any medication. At the point of 3 a.m. on Friday when my water breaks, I asked for an epidural. I was about 4 centimeters dilated, so they called up anesthesiologist, and he and a nurse anesthesiologist attempted to place my epidural, I'm not exaggerating, for over an hour. So that alone was pretty traumatizing. Mind you, my Pitocin is on full blast right now, and that's the drug that like causes contractions. So I think you can go, at my hospital, it was like 20 was max. I was at 18. So I was having really strong contractions, really close together, and it's painful, right? At the same time as me having contractions, they're trying to place this epidural for a very long time, over an hour. And I was so naive. I remember the first attempt they made to place my epidural, I was like, oh, thank God, like this is gonna be the last contraction I feel. Oh honey, if I could go back and talk to me, be like, no sis, this is not, it's not it. So I don't know if it's because I'm 5'2", I'm short, I am very short torsoed. I don't know if it is because I was so swollen. I don't know if it was my position. I'm not sure why exactly they couldn't place my epidural, but they had a hell of a time. And finally, the nurse said, I'm gonna try one more time to place this epidural, and if I can't get it, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And the other nurse in front of me looked at me and she said, I don't know if you're the type of person that prays, but if you are, I suggest you pray right now. And I was like, honey, I've been praying this whole time. Like, yes, I'm praying. And she did. She was able to place my epidural. I was so relieved, because it was literally the last time she was going to attempt it. And not to like get into too much detail, but the whole hour they were trying to place it, I could feel like the needle like in my spine. Like, I don't know if it's your spine, like your vertebrae, I don't know, I can feel it scraping against the bone. Anyway, so they did place the epidural. However, it only worked on my right half of my body. So my whole left half, I was still feeling full contractions. And they kind of thought like, maybe if you get in the right position, the medication can get over to that left side and help you. So we were kind of waiting it out, but it didn't, it never ended up taking to the other side. And then I would say around between 4 and 8 a.m., I was just laboring in a ton of pain, feeling all my contractions 2 to 3 minutes apart. I got up to 6.5 centimeters dilated and kind of plateaued. At this point, I hadn't slept in 2 days. I hadn't eaten in 2 days. You know, I'm exhausted. Also, they think this baby I'm about to have is 9 pounds and 10 ounces. So there's a chance I'd make it to 10 centimeters, push for 3 hours, can't get him out, and they're gonna have to do a C-section anyway. So me being over it, in a lot of pain, not progressing over it, I called my nurse in and I said, I want him out. Like, I want a C-section immediately. And she called my doctor. My doctor agreed because, mind you, she's the one that had given me the option to do a C-section to begin with. So she agreed. She came to the hospital and they sent up the anesthesiologist. And at this point, it was a shift change. So it was about, I think it was about 8 or 8:30. There was a new anesthesiologist, and she said, she walked into the room, she said, oh, I heard about you this morning. I was like, I'm sure you have. But basically, she said with the difficult time they had placing my epidural, she wasn't super confident at them being able to place the spinal block for a C-section. So I don't really know much of the difference between the epidural and a spinal block, but you know, it's a similar process. She said, I'm willing to try one time, and if I can't get it, we're just gonna have to do general anesthesia, or we can go right away with the anesthesia. And at this point, you know, I'm just ready to get him out. I'm in so much pain. I am slightly traumatized from the past hour and a half that I spent with them trying to place that needle and feeling it scraping against my bones, and I'm just done. So I said, put me under, like, just put me under. And I didn't know much about C-sections under general anesthesia, other than I had read that you're typically not allowed your support person back with you, which is huge. But also, when you're in that state of the worst pain you've ever felt in your life, with no relief in sight, I was like, okay. But we were super blessed, and our anesthesiologist, I don't know why, for whatever reason, our anesthesiologist said that Austin could come back, which was such a blessing. And it's amazing. I'm so grateful to that doctor for letting him back, and I'm just very happy that that was worked out the way that it did. They got everything ready, and it was my doctor and another doctor, and then a bunch of other people in the room, obviously. But they brought me back first, and I remember them moving me onto the bed, and they strap your arms down. I don't know if they do this for all C-sections, but they like strap my arms down, and then I was in the middle of I was about to have another contraction, and it was getting really intense, and the doctors and everybody in the room started counting, and that was the last thing I remember. And the next thing I know, I open my eyes and I see my son for the very first time on a phone, a picture. And they're wheeling me to my recovery room, and Austin had taken a picture of Bentley, and he's showing me a picture of Bentley on his phone, and I just started sobbing. It was so sweet of him to do that and let me see Bentley before I could actually see him, and let that be the first thing that I saw when I opened my eyes. But also at the same time, thinking back that the first time I ever got to see my son was a photo that somebody else had taken of him. That kind of sucks. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think about it too much, but it kind of stinks a little bit that, you know, everything worked out that way and I wasn't able to see him. I wasn't able to be the first or second or third or fourth or fifth or sixth or probably seventh person that saw my son in this world, you know. So yeah, I've been thinking about that a little bit lately. It's a little hard. But after that, they got me set up in my room, and I was able to hold my baby, and I'm, you know, coming off of general anesthesia, so I'm very not all there. I actually don't remember much about the rest of that first day, and I had him at 9:59 a.m. I don't remember much about that whole first day, just because I'm coming off of so much medication. But what I do remember is holding him for the first time and really trying to like be awake and keep my eyes open. And I had this charge nurse and I had so many amazing nurses, you guys. I was super lucky, but I did have this one charge nurse, and I know she meant well, but I remember the first time I'm holding Bentley, she's like trying to talk to me about something, and I was like, you know, heavy eyelids because I'm coming off of all this medicine, and she's like, "You're not falling asleep, are you? We've had moms drop their babies because they fell asleep with holding them, and they dropped them onto the floor off of this bed." And I remember being like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, like I'm trying my best to stay awake and I'm just having a hard time." And I know she meant well, she was just looking out for the safety of my son, but it's kind of, I don't know, it was just not the politest way of saying it, I guess. Also, I had Bentley on a Friday, and my hospital had 2 lactation consultants. Both worked Monday through Friday, so I got them for like an hour, a little bit, around like 3 or 4 o'clock on Friday, and then I didn't have them the whole weekend, which sucked because the nurses, you know, are pulled in a million different directions. So as much as they try to help you with nursing with breastfeeding, I guess, they have a lot of other stuff to do. So that was hard, not having the lactation consultants there, but we figured it out eventually. Finally, the last thing that was kind of difficult about my hospital stay was Bentley ended up losing about 11% of his body weight, so we had to stay an additional day for him. However, they had run out of space on the floor for me, so they were discharging me, keeping him. So they ended up moving us into a different room that was like half the size, like off in this weird like section of the hallway. And I remember getting moved into that room, and I went into the bathroom, and it didn't have any pads, it didn't have the mesh underwear, it didn't have anything like that, and I just broke down crying. You know, I was hormonal already, but it just felt like all of a sudden I went from being like I just had a major surgery, right, to just being like she's discharged, she doesn't. And of course I asked the nurses and they gave me the stuff. It was just like my hormones, but I don't know, at the time I felt so like not cared about and like not taken care of. It wasn't true, but that's just how it felt. All of that said, overall I'm super blessed, and I would do it all over again for my baby, but it was a little bit hard. And if you guys are mamas that have had a C-section or general anesthesia C-section, comment down below, tell me about your guys' experiences. I'd love to hear about them. Also, if you want to hear from Austin, he has like a whole different perspective of the whole situation, so comment down below if you want Austin to come on and tell you guys what it was like for him. With all that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like it and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.